in the comment section of a recent video. I mentioned it, but I wanted to share a couple of links as well to go along with what looks like Firefly expanding and being launched in the UK market in October. So here are two different posts from folks. NIO has not officially spoken on this yet. We'll talk more about Firefly in Europe and the global expansion here in just a minute. But it looks like Firefly is already surprising even just within China. And I do think this is a wild card for NIO, not just in China, but also globally. We'll talk about that in just a second because there are a few other things to talk about as well. The May NEV ranked 15th with 23,231 vehicles. Now that's against all NEV makers, not just BEVs, which is where they're actually looking to compete and take more market share. But this is also, I think, relevant for those who don't know. NIO does this newsroom publication. It's like a monthly thing that they do. It's usually on the first of the month, and they kind of do a review of what's been going on. One of the things that I find kind of helpful is, for example, if we go down here, we talk about, or we can read about rather, the EC6, the ES6, and those deliveries starting May 20th. Also, the refresh of the ET5 and the ET5 Touring. Now, I'm tying this in with the May delivery numbers because we're going to see those deliveries come in starting in June. So in other words, NIO should be moving up the ranks even as we move toward the end of the year. This is one thing I've been wondering about. We finally got a little bit some insight from William Lee on the production capacity for NIO. I've been wondering about it and hadn't heard anything. So I was glad to see one of the analysts ask the question. And this is talking about with, in regard or with reference to the 50,000 monthly volume in Q4 this year. Basically, is NIO set up to do it? What kind of production capacity is there now? And then, what's going to happen by that time? Are we going to see a change? Now, I had talked about in previous videos, I pulled up from the annual SEC filing that NIO planned on strategically bringing Factory 3 online in the second part of this year, 2025. So I was glad to get him to William Lee to weigh in a little bit on this. He says, "Thank you for the question. Our current production will be enough to support our delivery assumptions for Q4 this year." Hang on. If I'm understanding this correctly, he's suggesting that they, right now, even without Factory 3 online, have a capacity for 600,000 vehicles. Is that right? Is that, correct me if I'm wrong? He says, he goes on to say, I'm just curious. I want to, because at first I was like, okay, I don't know if I caught that right. Maybe that's after Factory 3 is online, because he then goes on to say, we are preparing our third factory and it will be put in operation starting September. And for certain production lines in some factories, we also have the flexibility to arrange double shifts. In that case, production capacity won't be a problem for us. So I don't know if he's looking and thinking beyond the 600,000 number, like the 50,000 monthly number. And look, I'll just be happy whenever they get to that point, right? I'm not trying to get too far ahead of myself or with respect to NIO and what they're doing. But at the same time, they need to have the production capacity in place before they can get to those numbers. So if factories 1 and 2 are already capable of that, I guess I'm just excited to see the ramp, through the rest of this year. That's my thought and why I wanted to mention it. But now let's talk expansion, because this also from the newsroom from NIO, and they're talking about 7 additional European markets. And now this is the key part. I've talked about this before, and I'm going to show you exactly where I've pulled it up and from. It's actually from the NIO site. This is what tipped me off to them doing things a little different with the global expansion, and I love it. But they're talking about expanding into Austria, Belgium, Czech Republic, Hungary, Luxembourg, Poland, and Romania. Now, I do have a couple of thoughts, and they do break things down a little bit further, but I want to keep moving here because this is the part that I want to show you. This is the part that I pulled up and shared before. And once I saw NIO doing this, I said, okay, they are looking to bring in more investors and to leverage investment in a creative way, just like what they've done in the past, leveraging partnerships like the folks from the UAE through CYVN and CATL in the past and possibly in the future, and then also with Hefei, the government. So this is exactly the kind of thing I actually like seeing a lot of, but I think one of the key pieces to this is the expansion of the power swap stations, because let's say, for example, Firefly is a huge hit and it's going over very well, or that it can go over very well even in new markets. Well, what I'm wondering is, where are the power swap stations? And there are 2 reasons for that. One is the obvious, the user convenience of having the power swap stations already in their country. But here's the other part, the regulatory side of it and how long it may take for new power swap stations to be implemented, built out, or even allowed in different regions if they're not there already. Now, even in the case of, let's say, CATL and NIO do a collaborative expansion on top of what they're already doing so that CATL can go out and provide more infrastructure for power swap stations just to focus on the growth of Firefly. If that ends up being a wild card that they want to play, then I want to know what that looks like. I want to know if there are certain markets where that, can really propel sales, but also, let's say the UK, if they don't have the infrastructure, is that going to slow any ramp or any real production scale that could happen? So that's kind of in my mind. The other part of it is this: we know that NIO has a power swap plant in Hungary. And so they're already set up to do things from there. Are they going to do more of that on their own? So I'm just kind of wondering, sitting back and thinking about some of these things as we see how well, received, and it's still very early, of course, for Firefly, that it's been received, but that price point with battery as a service is just so attractive. It's so low. I don't think anyone can compete with it on the global level for the value that the user will be able to get from it. But the key kind of piece or tie-in with that is, without power swap stations, you can't take advantage of or maximize the potential of the flexibility of battery as a service. And so I do think the power swap station build out is going to be very important to kind of capitalize and really maximize that expansion for Firefly, and perhaps for Onvo as well. But frankly, I would like to just see Onvo and NIO continue to take more market share within China. I still think that is the most important market. I always kind of felt like Firefly was tailored or geared towards, or maybe focused on, with a kind of an eye on the European market. I thought it was kind of intentionally positioned for that market. But the more I think about it and see it, I think it could do very well in North America, let's say. And so that's also in my mind, is if we end up having, China and the US, eventually, I think they will come to some agreement, whatever that ends up looking like. And so then at that point, is there a play? Is there a button to be pushed? Is there something maybe already in the works, or that's just waiting in the wings for some kind of announcement? I don't know. I probably already talked way too much. So let me wrap this thing and get it up and out. But, the production capacity, Firefly expansion, even NIO with the refreshes, we should see those numbers go up from here on out through the end of the year. There's just a lot to be excited about. So in any event, thanks for stopping by. Have a great day. I'll see you all again very soon.